Hi everyone, I'm Julie Kruger and I'm the owner of Kruger Immigration Law. Thanks so much for joining us today. Kruger Immigration Law is a boutique immigration law firm. We're headquartered in Buffalo, New York, and we love helping our clients achieve their dreams without borders. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to apply for naturalization. Naturalization is the process of becoming a United States citizen. First, in order to be able to apply for naturalization, you need to already be a lawful permanent resident of the United States. And naturalization application is going to be looking at several criteria to determine if you should be allowed to become a United States citizen. Today we're going to go through the criteria that they're going to look at and a few tips and tricks on filing the application and what to do with that. The naturalization process is something that goes through the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So USCIS is the agency that makes decisions on naturalization applications. And the criteria that they are looking for to determine whether or not somebody should become a United States citizen is, first, does that person have a basic understanding of English and United States civics? So at the naturalization interview, the officer is going to be questioning the person. The person has to be able to go through the interview in English, has to demonstrate a basic knowledge of reading and writing in English, and has to take a brief test on civics, on United States government and history. There is a booklet available of the possible questions. There's 100 possible questions that the applicant can study the questions and answers in advance and learn a little bit about the reasons for the answers. And you have to get 6 of 10 questions correct. The officer will ask you up to 10 questions. You have to get 6 right. So first requirement is a basic knowledge of English and United States civics. Next is that you have the right amount, you have been a green card holder or a lawful permanent resident for the right amount of time. Typically, that's going to be 5 years. There are a few instances where you can naturalize faster than 5 years, which is going to be, for example, if you are married and living and residing in marital union with a United States citizen, you're going to be eligible for citizenship after having a green card for only 3 years. But typically, it's going to be 5 years. So that's going to be another criteria. The other thing that USCIS is going to be looking to determine as part of the naturalization application is, does the applicant have the physical presence and continuous residence to qualify for naturalization? So those are actually 2 separate things, physical presence and continuous residence. So physical presence is basically going to be a calculation of the number of days that the applicant was in the United States over the time that they are needed to show that they qualify for naturalization. So if you're applying based on 5 years, they're going to look at the last 5 years, add up the number of days that you were outside the United States. And if you have more than half the time in the United States, then you can meet that physical presence requirement. And a day is counted as a period of 24 hours, the entire 24 hours the applicant was outside the United States. So if you started the day in the United States, you went over to Canada and had lunch, and you came back into the United States the same day, that means that that day counts as a day that you're physically in the United States. So that's the physical presence requirement. Separate from that, there is a continuous residence requirement. Continuous residence means, was there any time where you were outside the United States for a long enough period of time that disrupted your residence in the United States? Typically, that's going to be 6 months or longer. If you're outside the United States for longer than 6 months, up to a year, they're going to question whether or not you abandoned your permanent resident status in the United States, or you disrupted the continuity of your residence in the United States. If you are outside for 1 year or longer, then you are going to have to show that you have been in the United States for 4 years and a day before you're going to be eligible to apply for naturalization, because being outside the United States for 1 year or longer at one time means that you did break the continuity of your permanent resident status. So physical presence and continuous residence, 2 separate concepts, somewhat related, both relating to the amount of time that you have been in or out of the United States during the period that which you need to show that you qualify for naturalization. So the next requirement is that you are a person of good moral character. That is a basic requirement for naturalization. The officer looking at the application is going to be looking again at this period that you're required to show. So if you're qualifying for naturalization based on having been a green card holder for 5 years, they're going to look at the past 5 years. If you're qualifying based on living in marital union with United States citizens, so you're only showing 3 years, they're going to be looking at the past 3 years. That's the period that they're going to focus on. They can, of course, consider things from beyond that time period, but that is going to be the period that they are going to focus on. Things that they're going to look at to determine whether or not that applicant is a person of good moral character are going to be things like the person's criminal history, immigration history, tax history. Does this person pay their taxes? If this person is married or has children, are they supporting their family members? If they own a home, are they paying the taxes on their home? If they own a business, are they paying the taxes on their business? All sorts of things to show, do they have the standard of the community that they live in for good moral character? The standard, the standard is the good moral character of an average person in the community that they live in. So that's what they're looking for the good moral character requirement. There are a long list of questions on the naturalization application to determine whether or not this person has good moral character. A lot of the questions also deal with, did the person properly get their green card to begin with? Because unless the person is properly a green card holder, then they are not eligible for citizenship as well. The last requirement that they're going to be focusing on for the naturalization application is, do you live in the area or the jurisdiction of the office that you're applying in? And you have to have lived within that area for at least 3 months before applying. So if you've just moved, that's not a good time to apply for naturalization. You should wait at least 3 months before applying so that you have lived in the jurisdiction of the office that you're applying with for at least 3 months. So those are going to be the basic requirements that the USCIS is looking for to determine whether or not someone is eligible for naturalization. English and civics knowledge, the physical presence and continuous residence requirements, good moral character, having lived in the jurisdiction of the office, and length of time of having the green card. Those are the basic requirements. So that application, the process is going to be filling out a couple of forms, the Form N-400 application for naturalization, and then submitting along with that form the supporting documentation that goes along with it to prove each thing that you've said in the application. So you're going to be submitting a copy of the front and back of your green card. You're going to be submitting the filing fee. Right now it's $725, unless you're also applying for a fee waiver, and then in which case you're adding that form. Then you're going to be submitting your documentation to show that you are a person of good moral character, that you have the physical presence and continuous residence in the United States. So for example, complete copy of your passport and all passports that you've had during the time period that you're required to show that you've had the green card, so 5 years or 3 years. You're going to be showing your tax returns so that you can prove that you've paid your taxes. If you have to pay child support, you want to submit that documentation to show that you're current on your child support payments. If you have been arrested at any time, you're going to need to get original documentation from the courts or from the police agency to show what happened with that arrest, that you were arrested, what you were charged with, and what the outcome of that arrest was, whether you were convicted, acquitted, whatever that was. You are going to want to then submit whatever else it is that you have to show that you are a person of good moral character. For example, you could submit letters from friends, family, coworkers, to show that that they are the people who know you best think that you're a person of good moral character. You could submit things to show that you are volunteering with charitable organizations, donating to charitable organizations, that if you have won awards, if there are media articles about you, whatever else it is that you have that's particular to you in your life to show that you are a person of good moral character. The best thing to do to make your process go as fast and smooth as possible is to gather all the documentation that you need to read the instructions really carefully before submitting your application, so that everything is there together at the beginning. You're going to submit your forms and your filing fee and all of your documentation right at the beginning, right together. If you do not submit everything properly the first time, your application may be rejected, which of course is going to mean a delay. The other tip that I would definitely say is to study for that civics test. They're going to give you the booklet with all the questions in it. It's also available online on the USCIS website. And, just take the time and go over those questions several times, get some flashcards, have a friend help you or a family member help you. Because the questions aren't that difficult, and it's really, for most people, just a matter of studying them a bunch of times so that they can complete those. Then the last thing that I would mention is that if there is something in your application that you are concerned about, if you have long trips outside the United States or a lot of trips outside the United States, and you're worried about your physical presence or continuous residence, if you have any arrest history, if you have a previous immigration issue like a deportation proceeding or any unlawful presence in the United States, or there was anything complicated about the way that you got your green card, those are situations where I would absolutely recommend reaching out to an immigration attorney and getting the proper advice so that you can make sure that this is the right time to apply for naturalization for you, that your application is going to be successful, or that it's not going to lead to immigration problems for you. There are situations where if you have a certain immigration or criminal problems, that can not only mean a denial of your application, but can also mean to where immigration is going to look at whether or not you're properly a green card holder, possibly could lead to a deportation proceeding. So that's something, if you have anything complicated in your application, I'd strongly urge you to reach out to Immigration Counsel, experienced immigration lawyers who have handled complicated naturalization applications before, who can help you through that process. So that's the basic outline of what the criteria is for naturalization, some tips and tricks on filing that application. If you are thinking about applying for citizenship in the United States and you'd like to speak with me, I'd love to speak with you. We have our free case evaluation. It'll be about 10 minutes. We'll assess your eligibility for naturalization and figure out if this is the right time for you to apply for naturalization. We'll give you a quote as to how much it would cost to work with our firm. So thanks so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every week or two with the latest information about immigration, news, new laws, new regulations and policies that come out, and videos like this with tips and tricks for how to file your application. Thanks so much for joining us.